The baby monitor crackled to life at 2:47 a.m., and Sarah Montgomery's eyes snapped open. It wasn't the first time that week. Little Emma's cries pierced through the darkness of the sprawling Beverly Hills mansion, and Sarah's heart clenched with that primal instinct every mother knows: something was wrong. But this time, as she reached for her silk robe, a cold feeling settled in her stomach. Emma never cried like this except when one person was near her, the nanny. Sarah pressed her palm against the cool marble countertop of her ensuite bathroom, staring at her reflection in the dim light. Circles darkened her eyes, and worry lines creased her forehead, marks that no amount of expensive creams could erase. In 6 months of life, Emma had been a dream baby, sleeping through the night, giggling at strangers, content in anyone's arms. Anyone's, that is, except Melissa Chen's. The nanny had come with impeccable references. 5 years of experience with elite families in Manhattan, a degree in early childhood development from Columbia, and a warmth in her interview that had convinced both Sarah and her husband, Richard, that they'd found someone special. Yet Emma's reaction to Melissa had been immediate and visceral. The moment the nanny held her, Emma's face would crumple, her tiny fists would ball up, and those heart-wrenching wails would begin. "Babies can sense things," Sarah's mother had said over the phone last Tuesday. "Trust your instincts, sweetheart." But what were her instincts telling her? That Melissa, with her gentle voice and patient demeanor, was somehow harming her daughter. It seemed impossible. Richard had dismissed her concerns entirely. "She's a professional, Sarah. Emma's probably just going through a phase. You're being paranoid because you're going back to work next month." Maybe he was right. Sarah had built Montgomery digital marketing from the ground up, transforming it into a multi-million-dollar empire before Emma was born. The thought of leaving her daughter had kept her awake more nights than she could count. Maybe this anxiety was manifesting as suspicion toward an innocent woman. But then there was yesterday afternoon. Sarah had returned early from a meeting to find Melissa in the nursery, standing over Emma's crib. The baby was screaming, her face red and wet with tears, while Melissa simply stood there, her back to the door, motionless. Something about the scene had felt staged, performative. The moment Sarah had entered, Melissa had spun around with a bright smile, reaching for Emma. "Oh, Mrs. Montgomery, I was just about to pick her up. She must have had a bad dream." Now, at nearly 3 in the morning, Sarah made a decision. She padded down the hallway past Emma's nursery, where she could hear Melissa's soft voice attempting to soothe her daughter, and descended the curved staircase to Richard's study. The CCTV system he'd insisted on installing throughout the house had seemed excessive when the contractors were drilling holes in their pristine walls last year. For security, he'd argued, "We're not just protecting our home anymore. We're protecting our family." Sarah's hands trembled as she logged into the system, pulling up the nursery camera feed. She scrolled back through the evening, watching Melissa prepare Emma for bed at 7 p.m., the gentle way she swaddled her, the lullaby she hummed. Everything looked normal, loving even. She fast-forwarded through hours of peaceful sleep, Emma's small chest rising and falling in her crib. Then, at 2:35 a.m., Melissa entered the nursery. Sarah leaned closer to the screen, her heart beginning to pound. The nanny walked to the crib and stood there, watching Emma sleep. Seconds ticked by. Then Melissa did something that made Sarah's breath catch. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. But instead of checking it, she held it near Emma's crib and played something. Even without sound on the recording, Sarah could see the moment Emma's peaceful expression twisted into distress. The baby's mouth opened in a cry, her little arms flailing. Melissa immediately scooped Emma up, rocking her, and Sarah watched as the nanny's lips moved in what appeared to be soothing words. To anyone watching, it would look like a dedicated caregiver comforting a fussy infant. But Sarah had seen what came before. With shaking fingers, she enabled the audio and rewound the footage. The sound that emanated from Melissa's phone made Sarah's stomach turn. It was a high-pitched frequency, uncomfortable even to adult ears, the kind of sound that would be intolerable to a baby's sensitive hearing. Melissa had deliberately woken Emma, deliberately caused her distress. But why? Sarah's mind raced through possibilities, each more disturbing than the last. Was this some twisted form of job security, making herself indispensable by creating problems only she could solve? Was it worse? Her finger hovered over her phone, ready to call the police, when Melissa's voice came through the speakers clearly. "Shish, sweet girl, I know it hurts. I'm so sorry, Emma. But your mother needs to see. She needs to understand." Sarah froze. What did that mean? She watched Melissa carry Emma to the changing table, laying her down gently. The nanny pulled out her phone again, but this time she opened what looked like a photo album. She held it where Emma could see, speaking softly. "This is Maya. She was just a little older than you. See her smile. She loved butterflies and strawberries and her daddy's terrible singing." Melissa's voice cracked. "She had your same blonde hair, Emma. Your same beautiful eyes." Sarah's hands covered her mouth as understanding began to dawn, cold and terrible. Maya's mommy worked all the time too. Important job, important meetings, important everything except what was important. Melissa was crying now, tears streaming down her face as Emma's wails softened to whimpers. Maya's nanny seemed perfect too. References, experience, everything. But Maya's mommy never checked the cameras. Never thought to look. She trusted, and she was wrong, and my baby sister paid the price. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. She was out of the chair and running up the stairs before conscious thought took over, her bare feet silent on the plush carpet. She burst into the nursery, and Melissa spun around, Emma clutched to her chest. "Mrs. Montgomery, show me your phone." Sarah's voice was steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Show me the pictures." Melissa's face crumpled. She seemed to age 10 years in an instant, her professional composure shattering. Slowly, she transferred Emma to Sarah's arms and unlocked her phone with trembling hands. The photos showed a little girl with blonde pigtails and a gap-toothed grin. Maya at the beach. Maya blowing out birthday candles. Maya in a hospital bed, bruises mottling her small arms, her smile gone. "The nanny my sister hired seemed wonderful," Melissa whispered. But she was impatient, rough when no one was watching. Maya tried to tell them in the only way a 2-year-old knows how. She cried and cried whenever that woman came near. My sister thought it was a phase. By the time they realized, Maya had a fractured rib, a concussion, and trauma that she'll carry forever. She's 7 now, still has nightmares, still flinches when strangers reach for her. Sarah sank into the rocking chair, Emma quiet now in her arms, as the full weight of Melissa's confession settled over the room. "I couldn't just tell you to check the cameras," Melissa continued. Her voice hollow. "You'd think I was crazy, paranoid. Richard already thinks you're overreacting. I needed you to trust your instincts. I needed you to look for yourself, to see that something was wrong, because..." She took a shuddering breath. "Because in 1 month, you go back to work, and Emma will be alone with whoever you hire next. And what if you hire wrong, Sarah? What if you trust wrong? What if Emma tries to tell you something's wrong and you dismiss it as a phase? You hurt my daughter." Sarah's voice shook with anger and something else, understanding she didn't want to feel. "You deliberately distressed her. I played an uncomfortable sound for 5 seconds at a time, and I always comforted her immediately after." Melissa's eyes blazed with fierce protectiveness. "Do you know what Maya's nanny did? Do you want me to tell you what permanent harm looks like? I would never, ever hurt Emma. But I needed you to feel what my sister felt, that terror when something seems wrong but everyone tells you you're imagining it. I needed you to become the kind of mother who checks the cameras, who trusts her gut, who protects her child even when it seems paranoid or excessive." The nursery fell silent except for Emma's soft breathing. Sarah looked down at her daughter's perfect face, then at the surveillance camera blinking red in the corner, then at Melissa, whose career was certainly over and who might face criminal charges for what she'd done. "You're fired," Sarah said quietly. Melissa nodded, already gathering her things. "But wait." The nanny paused at the door. "Thank you." The words came out broken. "You're twisted and wrong and you traumatized me this week, but, thank you for caring enough about my daughter to ruin your career. Thank you for making me the kind of mother who looks." Melissa's smile was sad and knowing. "I have Maya's permission to tell her story, you know. I've been trying to get parents to listen for 5 years. I thought if I could just reach one mother, make one parent understand the importance of vigilance." She shrugged. "Maybe I went about it wrong. But I'd do it again. Every time." After Melissa left, Sarah sat in the nursery until dawn, Emma asleep in her arms, reviewing every second of footage from the past 6 months. Melissa had been exactly what she appeared to be: devoted, gentle, professional. The only harm she'd caused was intentional discomfort to prove a point. Richard found them there at sunrise. Sarah showed him everything: the footage, the explanation, the photos of Maya. She watched her husband's face pale as the implications sank in. "We need better systems," Sarah said. "Real-time monitoring, multiple cameras, background checks that go deeper than references. And I need to trust myself. When something feels wrong, it's my job to investigate, not dismiss." The next morning, Sarah called the number Melissa had left. "I'm not pressing charges," she said. "But I am starting a foundation. Parent education about childcare safety, warning signs, proper vetting procedures. I want Maya's story told, with her family's permission. I want you to help run it." There was a long pause. Then, "I'll do it. But on one condition: we tell the truth. All of it. What I did wrong too. Parents need to be vigilant, but they also need to know that crossing ethical lines, even for good reasons, isn't the answer. There has to be a better way." The foundation launched 6 months later. Within a year, it had helped over 10,000 families implement better safety protocols. Maya, now 8, cut the ribbon at their first awareness center, her hand firmly grasped in her sister's. Sarah never hired another nanny. She restructured her company to allow remote work and brought Emma to the office on crucial meeting days. On Emma's first birthday, as Sarah watched her daughter blow out her candle, she thought about Melissa's desperate gambit, about Maya's suffering, about the thin line between protection and paranoia. The cake was vanilla with strawberry filling, Emma's favorite. As Sarah took photos, she made sure to capture her daughter's smile, that pure joy that every child deserves to keep. And she promised herself, as she had every day since that night in the nursery, that she would always, always look